I really felt like I was making a lot of personal connections to the reading material this week, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to learn something that will help you as I share some of my highlights. In chapter one, when some of the early family life education community movements were being discussed, there were two types of parenting education that were mentioned. So one was preventive and the other is remedial. And this reminded me of proactive versus reactive parenting, which I learned in my parenting class last semester. So, proactive is planning ahead and trying to prevent problems from occurring, and reactive is just simply reacting how you naturally would, which isn't usually the best way to react. So, proactive is more effective than reactive, and we can apply this to family life education by doing things to help our clients strengthen their marriages and families and their relationships so that they don't have big problems that occur. Also in chapter one, we are encouraged to think about what we truly believe about the family. How important do we think it is? In my family proclamation class, I developed a testimony that the family is the fundamental unit of society and it needs to be protected. And that is something that I will have the opportunity to do as a family life educator. Um, in chapter 18, the need to make family life education more professional was an important topic. And one point that was made was that family life educators should be trained in specific curricula. So if you don't have specific training for a job, then you can't really do that job to the best of your ability. And so I thought of when I was called as Relief Society president in a singles ward at BYU Idaho. What really helped me was when we broke up into the different auxiliaries for leadership training, and then we were able to receive specific guidance and help from some of the leaders in those capacities. Another topic that came up in chapter 18 was that the education we provide will be most effective if it is systematic programming. So while one workshop on marriage preparation could be helpful to young couples, they won't be able to learn everything that they need to know, and they're also not as likely to develop patterns and behaviors that they'll stick with. So the connection I made here was the difference between studying course material throughout a course, like regularly, versus trying to cram just the night before a test. So if you develop a pattern and a habit, then you're likely to stick with that. Chapter 2 taught us how to design family life education programs. And one emphasis here was to use sound teaching plans. I used to be an elementary education major, and one class that I took, I created lesson plans, and then I used those lesson plans to teach in elementary schools. So my instructor for this class taught us to use backwards design when we were creating our lesson plans, and that basically means that you come up with your objectives first, and then you plan the lesson material. So this can be applied to family life education because you need to evaluate the needs of your audience and make sure that the activities and strategies that you're using while teaching are directed towards a specific goal. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you have failed. And so next, I made a couple personal connections in chapter 16. One question was asked, and it was not answered directly in the text. The question was, how do we motivate our participants to adopt desired behaviors? And so I reflected on this question for a while because honestly, I didn't know the answer. Motivation is something that I've struggled with sometimes. And one aspect of my life in which I've had to motivate myself is my health. So a couple of years ago, I was trying to lose weight, and one thing that helped me was to track my progress regularly. So if I could see that my actions were having the effect that I wanted, then I felt motivated to keep at it. So similarly, I think we should help our participants to see how their consequences affect or how their actions affect their consequences, sorry. So small victories should be celebrated, I think. If they notice one area of their marriage that is improving, then we should congratulate them on that and help them to see that that is a good thing, even if it is a small step in the right direction. This chapter also taught important ways to market family life education. And one idea that stood out to me was that we need to consider what is convenient for our clients. So my husband and I have a pair of financial advisors that we meet with online about once a month. And my family is pretty busy, as are most families, I'm sure. And I would be hesitant to attend these meetings if the advisors weren't so considerate of my family's needs. So they always ask us what time works best in our schedule, how long we have on each day that we meet, and then also if there are any specific topics that we want covered. So this has helped me to be more excited about our meetings, and I can apply this to family life education by considering what days and times work best for my clients, what location might work, or might be the easiest for them to attend, and then maybe offering free childcare during the program. And so the more convenient things are for clients, the more likely they will be to participate, which is basically just common sense. Finally, I really enjoyed reading Appendix A with the Statement of Principles. One particular principle reminded me of my marriage class that I took. It was the principle of readiness for change. So individuals simply cannot be forced to change. Gottman taught that people can change only if they feel that they are basically liked and accepted as they are. And I believe this is true because if we try to change just to please someone else, then we're not really changing on the inside. It's just our outward appearance that we're trying to change. And that's not what we want to happen with our clients. We want them to really change themselves and make changes that will be permanent. The last thing that I wanted to share was the principle that is most important to me personally, and that principle is integrity. My morals have always guided my actions, and they always will. And growing up in the church, I've always been taught what is right and what is wrong, and that I should act on what I feel is right. And I think this is especially important when working with clients as a family life educator. I believe that our clients deserve to be treated with respect and honesty. And so that is a personal goal of mine that I have, to always treat them in that way. So that concludes the topics that I wanted to share, and thank you for listening.